be." No sooner had he tipped his hat than the housekeeper had already turned back to the hackney, ready to climb inside. A wave of panic hit her. "Aren't you staying with me for a bit?" Georgie had loathed the housekeeper for the entire 2 months she had known her, but right now, she wanted to cling to something familiar for as long as she could before she was cast adrift into the unknown again. This time, completely alone. "I've got to get back." There wasn't an ounce of compassion on the woman's pinched face. "I've got the Colonel's house to run, so I don't have the time to mollycoddle you." She curled her lip in disgust in the exact same manner as the Colonel always did, whenever he deigned to glance her way. "You're not a child any more, Miss Georgina. You turned 16 today. It's long past time you grew up." With that heartfelt happy birthday, the door slammed shut and the carriage lurched away. Left by herself on an alien pavement, with not a single soul in the world who cared one jot about her, Georgie had the sudden urge to weep. In case she did, she sat on the tatty old trunk, filled with all her hastily packed belongings, and sucked in a calming breath. She hadn't had a soul who had cared in 6 years, so that was nothing new, and this was vibrant Mayfair, after all, and not a joyless army barracks, so how bad could it be? For good measure, she clutched her mother's locket as if her life depended upon it. Usually, despite having only fading memories of her mamma, the dented gold pendant soothed her, but today, even that precious talisman wasn't working. She was too scared, too confused by where she was and what lay ahead to find any comfort. 3 days ago, before he had unexpectedly shipped her off, all the Colonel had barked was that he was finally getting shot of her, which hardly filled her with any hope that her miserable lot in life was about to improve, even if this was Mayfair. A big fat tear drizzled over her cheek, and she let it fall. It felt like a final act of rebellion, as the Colonel had never had time for tears. The only emotions he made time for were disdain, disappointment, disinterest, or his customary outright disgust whenever she dared to open her mouth. She had concluded long ago that, seeing as any word she uttered, no matter how innocuous, seemed to infuriate him, she might as well be hung for a sheep as a lamb, so she had made sure each word counted. Defiant pride and rebellion were the only weapons she had in her pathetic arsenal, so she had honed both to cause the maximum impact. She had assumed that was how things would be until she reached her majority and had lofty plans of making a rousing, vitriolic speech before she flounced out of his oppressive house on the day she turned 21. However, had she known that her recent outspokenness and tendency to poke fun at his pomposity would have ended with her swift banishment, she might have curbed her tongue and her redhead's temper. Might have. Even now, in enforced exile on this faraway pavement, she had to scoff at the preposterousness of that ludicrous thought. Curbing her tongue for that humourless, granite-hearted despot would have felt too much like surrender, and it would be a cold day in hell before she ever allowed that to happen. She didn't only hate him for herself, but for the complete disregard he had treated her dear mamma with too, so good riddance to him. Good riddance to his frigid, disagreeable character and his latest soulless household and all his stupid, pointless rules. If the Colonel was glad to finally be shot of her, she was gladder to be shot of him. In fact, if she ever saw him again, it would be too soon. She steeled her shoulders and swiped the second tear away before she remembered that she was crying to spite him, and then decided that she would howl like a baby right this second, simply because she could. And she would have, too, if the shiny blue front door to the supposed school hadn't opened to reveal 3 beaming female faces, which were all about the same age as hers. "You wouldn't happen to be Georgina Rowe, by any chance, would you?" A pretty...
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.